Welcome to Gerald Johan Vanois, or for the Americans, Vanois, if you want me to make some noise over there, and the educational channel. It's already a series right now. This is the next in line. My main focus today is based upon something I found in Sound Inform. This is a method with which to understand words, or words with a capital. It's about the flat earth. It was maybe some people would say, why in earth are you busy with flat earth? It has a position, it has a function to a certain degree, but it certainly does not have the ability to be a universal theory, meaning that it will explain everything. But there is a small part of the flat earth vision which has a function in our orientation upon the reality, which is interesting enough to mention, and I mentioned it in my book for some reason. So it has a role that could be interesting as long as you make it fit with the whole reality. But first of all, someone, maybe as a joke, started the flat earth theory. Or is it an idea? Is it really a theory already? Or is it just an idea? Anyhow, it is becoming slightly popular. And I looked into it. Why do they do that? Do they use arguments to express this? Is it just, or is it just on the level of this is my opinion, you have to listen, you have to respect me? Okay, do we need to respect every opinion that is going around? All the arguments that are used for it? Is it really a theory, or just ideas? They're not even tested, maybe, or not testable, because a lot of untested or untestable ideas are simply very bad ideas, and you have to be able to say that. But I look into it. But first thing, what I always do is, when there's a theory, a new theory, an opinion or whatever, is there a good reason that it's there? Can we do something with it? If not, it's directly a bad idea, of course. And it's an idea, it's not even a theory if you can't test it. So, how do I approach this? Is it an idea? Is it an opinion? Is there a good reason? Can we do something with it? Let's remember that for a while. Now, the good reason, it's a bit tricky, because you can always find the good reason that we have the new theory. And then you put a goal into it. It's a personal goal, it's or some general goal, and that's a good reason. So this is a new theory because I have a good reason that this theory should be there. It's the general reasoning nowadays, but it's led nowadays to the point that everything what used to be science, which used arguments, tested the theories, and then it made it practical, we saw it's practical and we use it, it's a trustworthy region. Suddenly, more and more, everything you can pay for, you can get. So even science magazines, media, you can just pay for it, and it gets a voice of your opinion because you have a good reason for it, and they will sell it like a theory. This has, of course, huge consequences on all the people who see this. I mean, even if you're not so clever, you will even see this and you will notice it, and it doesn't feel right because you see, no, it's on the level of an opinion, and is it trustworthy? Can we still trust? Science, that's then the result. It has such huge consequences in our foundation of our reality, of what we see as being practical, what not, that we have reached the level where we a lot of people say, I don't trust. It's either the I don't trust it anymore. It's either the voice of the political agenda or whatever it is, and it's our voice. So I come back to the point I said before. Do we always need to respect all the opinions that are there? They're dominant, they're loud, or do they have also good arguments? Do they come to us? Is it good reason? Can we do something with it? Or is it deliberate reason? And do we still have opportunities then left to think differently? Now, when science has received the voice of an opinion, thanks to a lot of possibilities to make this so, of course, you have on one hand the voice of the politics, we don't trust this anymore, and then the voice of the people, and all the idiots now finally can get a voice. Great! Everybody has a voice now. And then not only that, the idiots on one side, everybody then needs to be an idiot because we are not the experts, so we are the idiots. I am one of these idiots because I also have a voice. And then if I have a counter voice, I will be, they will say I'm the troll of these official voices or of the non-official voices, of the alternative voices or the voices of the idiots who think they have an alternative. So I will be the troll, or they will be trolls, that they will influence these people again, that they are certainly not trustworthy. There's so many polarizations and contradictions and lack of expertise, including myself sometimes, because I can't look it up, we can't talk about it anymore. It's like, oh, how do we see it? It's reasoning about my vision, my opinion, my. So it's not a good idea. So should I respect opinions or arguments? I don't respect opinions. It's a wrong starting point to make a discussion. You will make polarization, and you're not talking about something, but about something that you see, and you give it a reason, but you don't want to show the reason. It's like the reason is a hiding place. It's the wolf in the sheep clothes of the opinion. So every opinion, in my idea of opinion is really, it's always a tyranny. It always comes down to a tyranny because you have one opinion against the other one. But everybody from the first start, even from the first start of before they start to form an opinion, it was like, okay, we feel an imbalance and we want to make that balance. And they say it's a good reason because we want to have a balance again. The way this is done is not always great, and the results are not always great, but the first impulse to make that change is good. It's like you feel an imbalance and you want to find your balance again. So there are organs in our body that will look for a balance between all the processes. It's best that we use that all the time, not just once and then make a compensation, but it has to go to good arguments to make this change. The arguments are good, that okay, we don't trust something anymore, why is this so, and what we need to restore balance. The balance is not like the compensation. That's not the right thing to do. We first need to find the knowledge. We can't find it always very easily. We have to get an insight of what kind of patterns are there now, patterns in ourselves as well. So we have to recognize our own desires. What do we want? Why do we want it? Is the goal and what we use for it really practical? Most of the time it is, of course, not. It's always comes down very easily. It's like, oh no, I think that, and I have a good argument, and I use all these so-called I think and I want as an excuse to make things fit. You have opinion that make it so that it fits into your narrative. So in the end, you still don't get the reality or a new balance because of this. No, you still have the opinions into a outer balance. So it's a really ballast. Is it even English? It's when focusing on the argument of I think that, I want that. The only good argument that you can keep is you want something to be fit, but don't make it fit because you just want it. So you first have to look up for why is something there, how it is. So what is there actually? So all the theories that are corrupted by this idea of an opinion become very easily deceived and corrupted by half-baked new ideas. That's where the conspiracies comes from, because we don't have enough ideas where to look for. As long as we stay on the level of the good or bad idea and the fight there and defending the idea, the arguments are very poor, they are pushed, and you don't come to a real theory. There has to be a good reason to make it so, to become practical, and to receive again a neutral terrain on which you can work. And it takes a very long time if you're still in this eternal struggle of I against them. You have always this pushing and half-baked reasoning. Either it is the opinion of climate change, overpopulation, uncontrollable financial system, of all kinds of imbalances. This way of thinking does not bring us anywhere. So we first need to define again what is workable, what do we really see, and what is really there, and how is it? So I looked into this flat Earth theory. Before I tell you how I see it, I will see how we can see already from the start that it comes forward from the idea of we don't trust science, so who knows, something else is true. The first argument that I saw was the Earth must be flat, because also if we go higher, we can still see further and further. With the sphere, you cannot do that, which is a bit strange, because if you go higher and higher, you can still see a circle around you, and you can see further. Of course, you can see further, and it still remains a circle. And they asked me, like, when can you see then the sphere? If you go higher and higher, it will always be this circle, and at some point this circle will have become a sphere. I mean, nothing more than that. But okay, it doesn't convince yet the flat Earth theorists, so I'll continue. Another argument I see very often is like, oh no, gravity, it's only a theory, so you can't prove it. Maybe it's not even true. They forget that it has a mathematical relevance, and I will show you in this video how important it is to use this gravity also as a way to get to our balance, how we can think a little bit more balanced than to just have an idea and live in a kind of fantasy comic world where there is no gravity. And I saw the argument. They had an engineer, he had a problem because he was busy with the Suez Canal, and they said, okay, I calculated how the Suez Canal had to be built, and I forgot to calculate the sphere of the Earth. And it's 100 kilometers, so there is a difference in height between one side and the other, and I didn't calculate it, and it still fits. So it proves that the Earth is flat. Now, for every theory, you have to know, like, does it count or does it not count? It only counts when it changes, really changes what you're busy with. The gravity, in a way, is always the same gravity anywhere on Earth. So if you calculate all the steps that you do, the gravity is the same. So that means that you don't have to calculate it because it's always one. The adaptation to it, the attraction to it is always one. So that's why a plane doesn't fly straight. It's not a fantasy. It is always in the same attraction towards the sphere, so it stays on the same height. And you also don't have to calculate it for a Suez Canal because it's ridiculous. Some formulas that you make, if you know how formulas are built, you always deal like with, is it depending in what I do that I use this calculation in my calculation, yes or not? If the balance is like that is the balance is everywhere the same, so x is divided by 1, so it's always the same, then don't calculate it. It doesn't count. Does it mean that gravity is explainable very much from mass? I will explain that later. Possibly yes. I have my own theory as well. No, not theory. I have an idea how gravity is can be explained a little bit differently, but it's only an idea, and I will show my idea later. That it's not a theory. You don't come to a theory too easily. I mean, you don't come to a theory too easily if it's not useful yet, or you don't know enough elements. Look further until you know it. One of the other arguments was like, oh no, you have to fall. If the Earth is going around, you have to fall off. Fall off from what? Where is the gravity then on the other side? On the other hand, if you have here like a train and you go 400 miles an hour or kilometers an hour and it's very stable and it goes always in the same direction, you also don't fall. You just don't feel anything. Only if you look outside you will see that there's a difference. Only where there are noticeable difference between two speeds, okay, then you will get an extra speed change and then you will feel it. Otherwise you won't feel it. The same thing like we don't feel that the Earth is moving at all because the speeds are constant. It's again, all the elements have the same, we are divided by the same force, so we don't feel it. There is no difference between us, I'm going a bit too quickly. It already moved to the next one. Another argument is like, yeah, so if the Earth goes so fast, we will fall off it so easily. Why doesn't a plane, if it goes straight, it will leave the Earth? I explained it already a little bit, but they also forget that we are not living in a comic book. The Earth is not still or not it's not always on the same place. It's also pulled by the sun. It is moving, so it is moving. Everything is moving, but also, of course, a plane or a rocket, it moves. It's also attracted by the same forces. Of course, it's not pulled away, or it doesn't have to go faster because the Earth is moving, because they are all pulled. Of course, the mass of the Earth is stronger than the plane, but the sun is further away, so the plane will still be attracted by the force of the gravity of the Earth. So that will be the main attraction for the plane. It will indeed not be able to move to another direction very, very easily, because this pull is very strong, and to make the orbit change a little bit, it's not very easy. Of course, it's not very easy. But it's because of gravity. And if you really want to be pulled away from the Earth, that's why we have to go 40,000. If I'm not mistaken, it will be something like 40,000 kilometers or miles an hour, and then we will be able to move away from the gravity. Otherwise it will be impossible. And there will be a lot of movements that we feel, the balance between the moon and the sun. It will also create an extra gravity, which will cause the tides to be going up and down. I don't know how with a flat Earth yet you can explain that. Okay, I hope this will be recorded, because I was suddenly moving back and forward. There is an influence in our being which needs gravity to think correctly as well. Of course, we are being pulled to the earth, and so if we are walking around, we have our center of thinking. It is also attracted by the gravity of the earth. So we think we are the center of the world. We use this as a center, but when we move forward, we move that center, and we also go towards a different center, or to someone else, or to something we don't know, and we move that center. It's a little bit the same as we encounter an opinion, a different opinion. If we don't use this gravity thing, which is common, with a common gravity, which is a neutral balancing effect, we remain in the eternal struggle. We always have to look for the gravity, to look for the balance. If you only look at the opinion, of course there's an inspiration in it, there's compensations in it, there are deliberate goals in it, like I said, and the good reasons that to think this. But is this balance for us both into a neutral practical reality? It's not always like that. So our engagement is mutual. Look for this mutual balance. There are a lot of balances between that are dealing with gravity. So we ourselves live in a small area which we can call the flat Earth. That is true. It is a small area which looks flat, but it's not the total reality. And this total reality, the changes in total reality, you can already feel through gravity. I will explain that later. So it just seems that the sun goes from right to left, and it's not the same in every region in every region on the planet, because on the North Pole this sun will not sink, because on the top I can explain that somewhere else. I think I forgot that in my explanations or in my PowerPoint, but never mind. I will tell you, of course, the shadows on the Earth are not always the same. It's a very large distance, but we have some shadows, and the sun goes up and down, and I can't show you very much here, but our way of thinking is very related to a fantasy at a very long time of the year, because everything moves in a positive direction. We don't have to do much about it. Summer, all the plants grow to the sun, and we get our food, and everything goes great. Only when, like in winter, when it doesn't work very much anymore, that's why it's called the fall. Of course, in the winter, it will attract us more to the gravity of things, and it's a psychological influence that makes us look for balances again, and have to change our visions and so on. We're not living in a fantasy. We are living in a world where we have some adaptations towards others, towards other ideas. It's very important that we deal with that as well. It's also embedded in the idea of gravity. So the very small area of the flat Earth is real. It's a 2D until a 2-dimensional until 3-dimensional region, not more than that. We don't understand all the rest. We don't care. It's the animal, almost like the animal kingdom, where we can work practically on things, and they everything which is as it is, and you don't need to change anything. It works there fine. So within the flat Earth region, it's enough if you live in a town where everything works fine. It's all you need. But if you want to change anything, if you need to change anything, the difference occur if the future is uncertain or unknown, or you need some estimations of where we are going to. This balance here in the middle is not enough, and we have to look for an estimation where it will go to. This estimation is more or less the staring at the horizon, because there we will see, we will we will see that the mathematical reality there is different, because there are two ways who go to the infinity, and there are some other ways to deal with even with mathematical ideas there as well, because we have the zero, we have the infinity, and we have the estimation in between. We use that in mathematics as well. So we make an estimation between zero and infinity to figure out how things hang together. We don't know that, but we have mathematical formulas that it's in that region of estimation that we have a different reality already. This different reality is also used in language. That's why it is also to be found in my book Sound in Form. So the perspective towards the sky is using these immeasurable, these aspects, and the changing of the open values, the evolving values, the closed values, and how it hangs together. So the estimations are also part of an uncertainty region, in between region, there where we can feel like what else we have that we don't see immediately. So outside the flat Earth, there's a second world of experiences, which actually is even leading us to the element of time and to the element of mathematics in general. I mean, this is even more real than what we see here on our flat plane. And there's even a language that I explained there, the Futomani, which script, which is here. You can see all the script here, based upon dual letters, and every stage in the seasons of the seasonal changes and between the elements is like an estimation, a new balance between the estimation, between the elements, dealing also with the evolving towards not being or with the subject of what you don't know, if you know, all these strange vague elements that are not very stable. They are used also in this system to make better estimation of what is evolving, and it's a letter system. Now, what kind of balances are there where we can use a different way of thinking that makes us feel what else is there in the universe? What else do we have to deal with? Is not a two-dimensional world. No, it isn't. And it all comes down again to this gravity. It's all caused by this gravity, so don't underestimate this gravity. You see it already underneath the sun, and then the Earth is turning around it like it, more in a spiral, but this is more easy to explain it. And also the Earth is tilting, so it has a precession, and so it's not really straight, so it's going to the sides. That means that during the summer we have more sun on one side, and in the winter more sun on the other side. And also the shadows go into two directions. So you have the A there. The summer is a spiral of the shadows so there's more shadow and less shadow depending on where in the year you are. In the middle of the year, you have the outer reach of the sun, the Earth in the outer reach of the sun, so it's turning into a different direction when you compare to the tilting of the Earth. So the shadows will then turn into a different direction. There's a small area in between which is a bit fake. It's during the equinox, and it's there's a weak force there where you almost don't know what direction the shadows will go. It's a bit an unstable or stable region. Also, if you would if you make a photograph of the sun each time at 12 o'clock every year, you will see that the position of the sun is not always at the same. So it's not just going round the Earth. If you just watch it, I mean, that's just seemingly how it goes simply because the Earth is tilting. Of course, the sun is always on the other direction, but it's not always perfectly on the same place. So it also gets this 8 form because we're like a sling going. It's complicated if you really want to understand everything, but I hope I can explain it already a little bit by these drawings. There are pulls from the sun to the earth. The earth is turning around, and the moon is also turning around the sun. Also not regular. So it is you can see on the right there, the moon is pulling onto these whole strings. Sometimes it's closer to us, sometimes it's more further away, and because of these positions, there are 4 positions possible. You have also the tides, which have strong tides, lesser strong tides, and moving away from the earth, or moving away from the coastline, and or going towards the coastline is all about gravity. Also at night you have you see the same things in the sky, of course, because the sky is turning just like the sun. It's always not on the same place, and our position to the sun is not always the same. The night sky is really turning very slowly into the same circle again and again. And well, I mean, the positions of the astrological signs, they are not literal important places or that have an influence on us, but it is all related with the tilting of the earth and the gravity changes, and because of these changes you get more light, less light, more shadow, less shadow. It has also a different influence on our psychology, on the nature, on how flowers grow and or fruits grow, and these are the signs of the astrology signs. They are actually very much fitting to how these signs move into the sky. So that's something new which I explained in my book Changeling of Seasons. And even like the Big Dipper on the sky, with which to use to measure to see where the North Pole is, and we can, because it's so the North Pole with the polar star is, then we can see where around which star all the other stars circle. Here you see the swastika in the middle. The swastika is also a symbol of, it used to be a symbol of the sun, they said, but it's not really the sun, it's more the clock of the which turns around and in a circle of a whole year. So in that way it is related to the sun. If you look at the Big Dipper during summer, winter, it has a different position, like a clock, exactly like a clock. And it was very important for people to have a good clock, so then you know all the rhythms and so on. Nowadays we don't need anything anymore, so we can live in a fantasy. We just leave all the clocks behind. We leave the gravity behind, but this gravity is what pulls us to the right direction every time in every phenomena, and that's why the astrological signs are invented in a way. So what kind of gravity is important for us? We have a small gravity for us, so we have one position, go to another position someone else, there's a small gravity there. In the flat earth theory, they say it's not a gravity, it's like there's a dark hole of gravity behind the flat earth. Yeah, if you want to call it a black hole, why not? But then this black hole is also, if this is an expression like you like this expression, and then you can understand the gravity. Okay, let it be. But this gravity is pulled by the moon, which has this dual effect on gravity with the tides. Do you know that already? All within one day. But the moon itself is also attracted by the sun. So while the Earth is around the sun in 365 days, also the moon has these rhythm changes towards the sun. from about 28 days, and these rhythms are even more important in our way of thinking than the tides. While the tides are gravity, these gravity doesn't influence us very much. But the strangest thing is, I see 28 days is an influence and a rhythm, which is very important for us because the plants grow according to this rhythm, and the menstruation of the monthly menstruation works this way. So the full moon has an influence on our blood pressure. So if we have an operation during full moon, it has an influence. Strangely enough, it's not gravity there, something else which I can't fully explain yet. I don't know it. I'm not clever enough, but I have some ideas about it, but I can't explain it fully yet. Ideas, I said ideas, not theories. Gravity, so gravity is real. Now this formula, it's not a fantasy. It's actually the mathematics not so difficult as it seems. You can see letters that have seemingly no meaning, but they are expressed quite nicely. I think the F for the force. So what does this formula says? There's a force, and how strong is this force? So how strong is it? It's the G force here. So the G, I mean that's the number or the how you it's kind of a how you you have to measure it with something. So it's the balanced number with which you can calculate very easily. I think, but I'm not sure that it is based upon how strong the pull is on Earth, and then we have something to compare with. So it doesn't explain the gravity yet, but it is a force with a certain value, and this value is of course depending or is connected with that's why it is multiplied with mass 1 multiplied with mass 2, so meaning we have two masses which are connected into one entity, and it's divided by, meaning it is depending on r to the square. So that means r is the distance between the centers, so it's connected with how far you are from each other. So the mass will have more influence if you are closer, and why to a square, because it's multiplied with itself, meaning it's one mass with the distance and the other mass with the distance, depending on the mass, the two masses together with the two distances. As a general force, it is usually when it is as a square root there, and it's in two ways that it works as well. So, but what causes this gravity? Of course, it is increased by mass. That's good, and we know already that if the space is closer, then it will increase. So that's also good to know. But we also know that there are elements. All the elements that are some elements are heavier, and they also have more. Of course, there's also more mass in it. So there's more gravity pull in it. I always had the idea that it should also be connected with not just with mass, but also like how many possibilities are there in the structure, that it connects with other patterns. So the complexity when the complexity increases, how many patterns are possible, but that you need space-time for it. If you don't have it immediately available, okay, you will also need the higher dimensions of it. But I'm sure that some of the patterns that exist and the gravity that exists cannot explained solely by mass and distance. You also have to define distance a little bit. But this is all an idea, and it's not a theory, and I don't know enough about it to have a good explanation, so I didn't explain it in my book. I just talked about it simply because this is the way I make ideas. I say, okay, I have an idea that this should be connected, and now we can talk about it, we can discuss it, but this is not a theory. A theory is when you have all the elements together, you have to look for them, you have to have enough knowledge, have enough intelligence. I don't have it yet to explain this, so I leave it. But that is the difference between a theory and an idea. And once it's an idea, don't do as if it is already there and that you have already something. Flat Earth is very limited if you don't see to where this idea goes and where it is practical and it's not. If you don't even want to look at it, it's a bad idea. Before finalizing this video, I still have to want to show you this example of how flat earth people think that the sun really rises up and down, and it's yeah, I don't know how they explain the phenomena, but they forget that it's not everywhere the same everywhere on Earth, and it can only, these differences can only explain by where you are at the Earth. I have here this image that I almost forgot to add, so I added it later and compiled this video with a very small part that I recorded later. So somewhere, if you're so when you are more up north at the sphere, it will look differently, because when the sun rises and go down again, it doesn't really go down completely. And you can see that in the top image over there. So you see the tilting of the Earth, and it can only be explained by the tilting of the Earth. What do you see? You can see the sun rises a little bit and goes down a little bit. It's always shining for half of the year. So during summer time, it's always light. A little bit light, not much light comes to it. It's a very lower frequency, almost like it's reaching it nearly there. So it's there's sunlight, not a lot of sunlight, but it's always like a shadowy light that comes through, but it's light all the time. During the winter time, you see that that the Earth is the other side. It's so it's circling around the tilting again, and yeah, it's most of the time it's the darker side which is it's more dominant. So when you look at the sun, it is down, but you can still see the sun, and during night it goes down a little bit more because of the tilting, and because you're so high up the circle, there's not much difference. So you can see there the second image there. It's also always light. The darkness does not exist somewhere in the North Pole. It's always light. It's a little bit lighter or a little bit darker, nothing more. That's the difference, how they see reality. Around the equinox is completely different, because there, of course, the contrasts are much larger. I look at the blue arrow. That's how they see it during the day or during the night. So what happens, what they see with the sun, it goes up pretty much high in the sky, and when it goes down immediately. So you have really, and you're completely into the shadows. It's not like in the North Pole where there's always some light. Here it is really light or dark. It's very black and white, and that's the way that you are used to think. It's either yes or either no. It's very easy. And if you consider it that in Europe or some other parts, or China or whatever, so it's certain somewhere half up the sphere where they have all the kinds of shadows, the way of thinking is also more like the yin and yang and everything which is in between, which helps you to form in your mind all the faces in between. It's not just black and white. The world is not black and white. And when you deal with all these faces in between, it helps you. So it helps you in the thinking process when you live on these regions. Okay, there is a relationship. It doesn't mean that you can't think, but the way that you prefer the black and white thinking is, of course, also related to where you live and what you're used to, what you see in nature. So, of course, it influences your way of thinking a little bit. But it's still up to you to see the perspective in the whole world, of course, and where it is different when you're going up north or you're going south. It's different, and so the approach is different, and the solutions are different. When it's warmer, colder, all these things matter. It's the balance which is a bit different on these regions. So during the winter time in this region, of course, it will go very quickly, a little bit more quickly to the night sky, and you see the next vision there. It's light for a long time and dark or night. It's day for some time and night for a bit of longer time. So what can we remember for the vowels and consonants? There are not a lot of vowels and consonants that we use in our flat Earth vision. It's very limited. We don't need much. We are living a little bit like very practical, but a little bit animal-like as well, of course, because we don't need very much the things that need more time, so we can do everything immediately. That way of thinking is limited, and you also don't need so many concepts then if that's the dominant part. But of course, once you start to visualize what's on the horizon and where we go to, and we're going to estimate, we immediately connect it with time, with periods. All these time frames, all these estimations, they immediately bring us into the concept of time and to comparison and to adaptation. And that's the sling of gravity is there as well, which influences the whole structure of time frames there as well. So up to you what you choose. You stay on the flat Earth, you can just defend your opinion and fight against other opinions, or look for the balance in between the evolutions, how it really evolved from one vision, one direction or one circumstance, to another circumstance. All these circumstances are different, and there is only one neutral balance between them, and there you can see to what all these things depend upon, and this is the gravity point we should never ever forget. Last thing I want to say before I finish my thoughts is a lot of my ideas that I have shown here might not be perfect. Some of it are half-baked as well, maybe. It's because I use them as ideas for expressing a certain direction, and I base myself upon that. I more or less understand in which direction they go. I don't fully looked up all the details, how it really is in reality. I'm not the expert, so I'm still the idiot. But even it doesn't matter to be an idiot, so that's my example as well. So just use your ideas to use them as a direction to come to a theory, and that's what I do in my books. So these ideas, they direct very much into a certain direction, and some of these ideas can be expressed better, maybe, but it doesn't really matter anymore, because you already have a theory that you can fall back upon. And this theory, with some insights, even if you don't really know all the details, they already work. If you have already, if you understand it already, like, oh, it goes that direction, okay, you can express it already, and then later you can improve the details a little bit. But it allows us also to be a little bit like an idiot and have half-baked ideas, as long as you don't use it as a goal on your own, as an excuse, as a compensation, but as long as you use the goal to come to the balance and to experience what the balance is about and where it goes to and where it is connected to. Just make the connection. If these connections are made throughout the process, no matter how idiotic or half-baked ideas we use for it, as long as we go to that direction of making these connections with the gravity, it will help us, it will improve it. You don't have to be like in sports. You can enjoy sport and still perform it and go and enjoy it, but you don't have to be the biggest expert. It's not always needed for the goal of that you're enjoying yourself or making the connection into the sport with someone else. You're still following the rules, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When it really worked, okay, you will win the game. And okay, it's not a very good comparison, sorry. Anyhow, yeah. What I really wanted to say is that it is okay when you express an idea, when there's a certain direction in it, that you have a goal in it that is directing towards a theory or towards another goal that you have in your thought that you want to express. Meaning, the ideas themselves might not be so perfect after all, but at least it's honest, and what you express has a true understanding. I don't like students like in class, they just repeat something from a book. What do you have for this? Or people who want to be part of the scene, or be part of the understanding, or being part of to talk about something, whatever it is, and so they use it as an excuse to make themselves more important. This goal is not very pure, and also this honesty is not there. Once you have an honest direction, that means you really express what you understand. Then I come back to that, why I use this sports thing, and I almost forgot what I was pointing at. In the sports, you have a kind of talent which you learn. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you enjoy it and you understand the game and you enjoy it. And if this is your goal, just enjoy it. It's okay as well. If you have to come to a theory at some point, okay, just be honest and make that as a goal. There's a gravity in what you do. And if you start from the starting point with your idea, what I said before, like with the flat earth, the starting point, why this was formed in the first place, or why people like it in the second place, or why people take it as well, it is not a very honest goal. If the gravity in everything is very important. That's what I want to leave in this video in your mind. What is the most important thing to remember? So in everything what you express, see that you express your ideas, what you understand. Honestly, I understand this. If it's not perfect, I allowed it. It's good enough to allow it as long as what you understand brings over and directs into towards what you want to express. In my books, there's a lot of directions, and I don't express the theory like a rational idea immediately, or that you have that you can learn it by heart. No, you have to understand it first. Follow the directions. Once you start to understand it, you understand it like a talent, like you understand sports in your feelings, in your understanding. Your art is the same thing. You cannot learn it by learning the rules. You have to. It's good that you know some of the rules and that you understand them, but the practical thing is something that you needs direction, and you follow the leads and the direction. My book is about theory. The last book is especially about theory. The second book a little bit less, but the directions are more stronger in the second book, and that is my ultimate goal, of course, that you understand the theory, but only by following the directions and learn the directions and learn to think in the same way as these directions are pointing you. Not very easy at all times, but when you follow the gravity, yes, the gravity of what some of these things try to express, you will get there. The small gravity pull from the body and the mind, because the mind is very important that you go to a different center and adapt to a different center. All this idea and how it works in your body and in your mind, it is explained in Changeling of the Seasons, and it's connected with the 4 seasons, of course, and how this rhythm goes and how we deal with it. It's there. The introduction is in that book. And the other explanation about the vowels and consonants and words and scripts that are dealing with the second region, the region of estimation on the horizon, like in the Fotemani, how we estimate situations, you can find in Sound in Form in that book, and a little bit more about how the body also uses the gravity in and the pulse in martial arts. You will find in Changeling of the Seasons. Thanks for watching again. Sorry it was such a long video, but I wanted to explain something about Flat Earth, and I gave you my opinion where it somewhere fits into my books. So I hope you enjoyed. Welcome to look at the other videos, and you're welcome, of course, to look at the website. This is the website, just check it out and find out more. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.